We are unmuted, live on Facebook. Unmuted, live on Facebook.
Okay.
Mr. Heiser?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to check you could hear us.
I can. Thank you very much.
Of course.
And then when I was a commissioner, he wanted to know, we appointed him to several different committees and stuff for, he was always just really interesting to listen to. Everett man. Oh, yeah. He was in can't remember what all committees up was on, but several of them, or boards, county boards, I should say, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I talked to him the other day. It's been a while back, huh? 40-some years. We were in 78, right about the time that man mowed the building. That's kind of how everybody remembers. Hi, Chris. How's it going?
Yeah.
74. A lot of years. Yeah. Yeah, Eddie had started.
Do you want to have a
Donations. I guess he, yeah, I guess he don't have what?
I was gonna take your picture tonight, but I forgot to tell you.
Oh, I barely got out.
Yeah.
Aaron Dirty said.
I mean, if you want your picture taken, okay, tonight, we do it. That's why the mayor has had it.
Okay.
Because I realized it's almost July and I haven't.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Hello.
There's a agenda already out there.
Hello.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Hello out there. I don't think we really need our computers, I guess, so. Has anybody heard from Jackie?
She's not gonna make it.
Okay.
She said last time that the state was.
Oh, that's right. I remember now. So is everybody ready? All right, I will call this meeting to order. It is 6:01, and please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can I have roll call, please?
Mayor Terry Wyckoff,
Here.
Vice Mayor Jacqueline Wells, Council Member Aaron Dirk,
Here.
Council Member Darrell Gardner,
Here.
Council Member Davari Martinez,
Here.
Council Member Linda Smith, here, Council Member Chris Weisenberg.
Here. Thank you. The next thing on our agenda, this being a workshop, is the Rollins Municipal Code, Title 19, .36, I-zone and schedule of users, and I will, entertain a motion to discuss that, I guess. So moved. Is there a second? Do we have to in a workshop?
No, not in the workshop, I thought it could say special meeting, the special meeting is going into a workshop, no.
Okay, it's not a hearing or anything, okay.
No, you just open it.
All right. So, I will turn the floor over to, whoever, Sean, I guess, and I'll let you start.
Okay, thank you. I'll just kind of get things kicked off, and I think it'll be good to hear, Lou's perspective a little bit on this, and Amy's as well. But just to give kind of a brief background, I know this was prior to me even coming to the city, but it sounds like the Title 19 is something that the city worked on quite a while, or planning and zoning did, to work on some amendments and adjustments, and then it wasn't until, April of, 2020 when the council approved or adopted a lot of the changes that planning and zoning had been working on. And it's just recently, it's come to our attention in review of this title that I think there's some unintended, consequences of some of the things that were adopted. And specifically, when we're looking at the Title 19 and 36, the industrial, schedule of uses, when you look at that, and in that zone, there are businesses in there that right now would just not be in compliance with power code reads, and so they would need to get, a lot of businesses would need to get special use permits to be able to operate their businesses there. So it is a bit of a predicament, to, come to that realization. And so as we've discussed together, we feel like, there are quite a few issues, with what was adopted back in April of 2020, and that it would be in our best interest to rescind those changes that were made at that time and start fresh, and so that we can all have an opportunity to very carefully, go through the changes that we want to make. I would say that, I'm sure from the planning and zoning perspective, this might be a little bit hard to swallow, because they've worked on this for a long time, but I don't think that their time working on this is lost by any means. I think that if we can start fresh, we can still take a look at those ideas to see, this still was a really good idea to change this or that, but, that from visiting with one another, appears to be the best course of action that we could take. That is our recommendation tonight, that we rescind those changes from the April 2020. Let me, if I could, let Lou just give a little perspective on this, and Amy as well, and we'll keep our conversation going. Up to you.
Honorable Mayor and Council, this stems back from January of 2020. There was a liquor license given, and April of 2020, Title 19 was changed. Before 21, the liquor license was applied for and given again in February. Then March of 21, there was a special use permit. I think with some of the issues that have come from this special use permit, I think it's in the best interest to where we go back and rescind Title 19 to make it fit our areas.
I'd just like to get in on the conversation, because I attended the meeting when we, talked about Title 19. Matter of fact, Danielle and I had a discussion about this. I voted for it, I was not really supportive of it, and I'll tell you why. We have areas in my ward that fall under Title 19 that are not even being enforced. The answer to that came out that, no, that's Title 8, that's a nuisance. It's not a nuisance. It's a landfill. It's a junkyard in a residential area. And so, therefore, I think that rescinding this, we can make the changes that we need to have so that not only, the industrial area, it fits the industrial area, but also fits the residential areas where, people are hauling vehicles and junk and cars and whatever, on their property in a residential area. So anyway, that's where I'm at on that, and I don't have any problem rescinding it, starting over, and it takes 10 meetings to put it together, so be it, but, I think that's the best way to go. That's my say.
Councilman Smith?
Before I can vote to rescind, I'd like to know what we're going back to. So that'd be the number one thing I'd like to know. And I don't have it in front of me, so I can't say tonight I could vote on anything.
But we're not gonna vote, we're not gonna take any action here tonight whatsoever, just so you know.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess my directive is I'd like to get the old ordinance back to see what we're going to take it back to. And I also agree with, Councilman Martinez, we have areas in this community that has a mix of, uses. And to, be fair to all those businesses, we need to take a really strong look at that, and if the old ordinances accommodates that and doesn't put anybody out, or, you know, affects their businesses, then I can support something like that, but I really need to take a look at the old ordinance.
Well, I think that's where we'd start, and take that old ordinance and just take it section by section and change the changes, and make the changes we wanna make. Matter of fact, as this word got out, I got a call today, for residents on Sunnyside, that the ordinance is not being enforced. So, so that'd be a good time, this would be a good time to make some of these changes and get it so we can use that tool. It's crazy to have a tool out there that we're all trying to enforce, and one person will enforce it this way, another one will do it this way. We need to have it where it fits everybody. So I'm in favor of rescinding, that's where I'm at.
On this item, I have sit down and looked at what was there prior to April and what is there now. And, like in the industrial area, it doesn't allow for retail businesses, there's 20 of them down there. Or so, I don't think that was anybody's intention. I just can't even imagine how that happened, but it was before my time, so I'm gonna blame somebody else. But anyway, what you do about a problem is you fix it. And, looking at the old Title 19, it fit much, much better than the new one. I just don't understand what the intent was. Does anybody know what the intent was to change it that much?
I think it's just an oversight, I really believe that.
Well, they worked on it for quite a while.
But when you get so intense, sometimes you overlook the elephants that sit in the room.
Sure, but it's a sweeping change. It's not like a tweak even,
That's why I think it's
it's
important.
past that. But I think if we go back to what's worked for us for all those other years, there may be some adjustments needed, like you said, but that we don't have to be in any hurry to get that done. It just needs to be done right. So, if you have more information as to why we should or should not rescind that, I'd like to hear it.
And Mr. Mayor, I agree with everything you said. I don't think there's a big hurry, but it is something that we have to have, so that
Yes.
because these issues will be coming up while we're working on it.
Oh, yeah,
So
not the back, I'm not saying back burner,
10 days, you know,
but,
or 2 weeks, or a month, you know.
yeah, it's gonna take several months probably to go through it. It's 106 pages. And it took a few days to read them, let alone understand and think of the ripple effects
And I know it takes a long time, because I remember when they put these tools together, we spent months, 6 months, meeting every other day, where my wife was thinking how to move into City Hall. It was that bad.
Was that why, or?
The variance board and the zoning boards and the Board of Adjustments, we put all those in one book, and it took us a year.
Oh, yeah.
Really,
This is not simple stuff. It's pretty involved.
well, when you're affecting somebody's livelihood, that's one thing, and so I think we're on the right track. Or, like I say, going back, looking at some of the stuff in the old one, and maybe look at some of the stuff that we have in the new one, and combine them, or, but I think that's the way to go.
Councilman Durst?
So I guess I just have a quick question for somebody that's not at this pinch. How hard or time consuming would that be to, I guess, put a before and after to show, how, would that did that question make any sense? Is that just where somebody would have to literally read both and then, or is there like an easy way that it's drafted out with?
Yeah, so this version that we have out on board docs right now, you can see what the before and after was like. So like the green, for example, is the new edition. And then you'll see strike throughs and you'll be able to tell what was the original when you look at it.
Okay, was that on today?
It should be, yeah. Yep.
Okay, I didn't see it, I'm
I
sorry.
didn't get it either,
Yeah.
so that's why I'm being so picky.
Oh, this is definitely user error, then I'm definitely gonna put this out.
But we have time, so.
Yeah, no, that's okay, I just didn't.
So, and we're not gonna take an action tonight, so I think this meeting is just to make everybody aware so we can go do our homework.
Go make 'em-
I had a laptop and in my regular computer, and that's how I
Just looking between them.
compared them also. Councilman Weisenberg?
So if we rescind this, it's gonna take 3 readings, correct?
So that's another option for the council, because there are enforcement issues across that industrial zone, not limited to this new, temporary special use. It would require notification to all those C1 and C2 uses in place of the changes. So what we have proposed to the council would be an emergency ordinance rescinding Title 19. So it could be addressed in one meeting with a public hearing. Unfortunately, it cannot be presented to you next Tuesday. The publication deadline for the Times was yesterday, and so the next time that we would be able to get it publicized at a regular meeting would be your meeting following that.
So rescinding that in a month, per se, and then we'd have several months to work on it to modify it again, because it would just go back to the original of what it was before and make more sense of that area, that zoning area now, correct?
Yes, because it impacts not just one business, it impacts other commercial, users in that entire industrial zone. And we have a number of areas that are zoned industrial. And so we brought this for you as soon as it became aware, the staff became aware of it, so that you can make this decision on how you wish to proceed. Do you have an objection, to moving forward with an emergency ordinance, rescinding it, taking us back to status quo pre-April 2020? Or do you want to move forward with the ordinance as implemented, which will affect a number of retail, commercial businesses in that industrial? And that's why it's brought before you tonight.
One question, also, if we rescind it, then it goes back to planning and zoning?
So it would start back with staff. In this instance, staff would, begin to develop the draft, taking into account what was provided to you and determining how it fits with state law, case law, administrative law, and our master plan. So it's not just a one review. You have to comply, you have to review a number of items to make sure that the zoning that we're going to bring to you complies with all of that. And it's uniform and orderly, and that it presents the best plan that the city has for current development and future development moving forward, with the intent not to try and hinder what's currently in place, but to provide reasonable regulations for what's to come.
So, if I hear you right, you wanna go back to, if we rescind it, we'd go back to the old one, and that's what we'd use to run the city temporarily until we work on the new one. My thinking is, I think when we're working on a new one, that we need to take a little time.
Absolutely.
That's where I'm at. I don't wanna have an emergency reading on putting a new one together, because that's just too fast. We're dealing with somebody's livelihood here, so we need to make sure that we put it together the second time.
Right.
We do it right. That's all I'm asking.
Well, and before it was changed, I don't know what problems there were, but it was in force for 15, 20 years, because I know the building I sold, the uses changed in April. And
Well,
it hurt, and it's not good.
Yeah, and
in that case.
And I understand what you're saying. I guess my thinking is that the reason, we change these ordinances and, is because things change here. You know, we never had a deer problem, and all of a sudden we're talking about fencing them. And we, you know, things change as we go along, so I think that, if we're gonna make some changes, we need to make sure we make the right changes. And maybe we don't make any changes, maybe it'll go with the old one.
And I'm sure there's some tweaks that need to take place. Councilman Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. My question, I guess, to staff or to Amy, any issues that are before us currently, if there's a timeline on that, those issues, what happens to, okay, we have to advertise, I'm trying to get particular in my mind, but there are some other issues pending that may be affected. So I need to know if those can be held longer and for us to adopt an emergency ordinance, or if what happens to those issues, I guess?
Sure. So, in the staff's estimation, returning back to the status quo would benefit all those users that were in place on April 2020, including the underlying, temporary special use that's before you. It would revert that back to a permitted use under that zone, and they would not be subject to obtaining a special temporary use or relocating that use. So what I believe moving forward, we would recommend is reaching out to that property owner and identifying this issue, identifying the plan, which is to rescind the ordinance by emergency ordinance, not next week, but the following regularly scheduled meeting, and ask for them to postpone or agree to hold that temporary special use permit that comes before the council in abeyance pending that decision. Ultimately, we don't know how the council would vote on that emergency ordinance until it's presented to you. But I think we have a good understanding of where the council wants to work with maintaining the current commercial uses in that zone and go back to the beginning and provide staff the opportunity to work cooperatively with all property owners within the city, on Title 19 to make sure that we hear input from them and bring it forward to you after that review.
Councilman?
Would it be possible to do, put something in immediately that grandfathers anything prior to April 20th, just for now? So we're not doing this for every single individual business that comes forward. We just grandfather all that were prior to that April 20th.
So there are, potential ramifications with changing that grandfather date. And so that 1989 date is established in code. What I would recommend is that we have to enforce our ordinances as written, and we have to enforce them uniformly. Now, how we choose to enforce that is up to the discretion of the zoning officer or the code enforcement officer or the police officer. What the message from City Hall will be is that the current code as adopted states this. However, pending an emergency ordinance to rescind from the council. So we want to be perfectly upfront and honest that the current zoning does not currently permit those commercial uses in an industrial zone. However, we are working as a city to rescind those changes, to take us back to pre-April 2020 and have those uses of permitted uses in an industrial zone.
That makes sense to me. I don't see that we have really a choice. We've created so many problems with that 2020 thing that we can, it's a do-over. A little embarrassing, but nonetheless, what do? You find a mistake, you fix it. You find a pothole at the end of the street, just 'cause it's been there 10 years, don't mean you don't fix it. you see it, you fix it. We see this as a problem, let's fix it. So, and I don't see anybody disagreeing with that.
No, I don't have a problem with that. My thinking is too, is that, this isn't gonna start a snowball effect where we have people wanting to do things as fast as they can till we put a new one together.
So the changes prior to this were well established. And as the mayor alluded to, this is a pretty profound change in that entire title. A sweeping change, to many uses that had been in place, maybe not as far back as 1989, but had been established for a considerable amount of time, to where the city as a whole, I think had you had that information, it would not have been passed, with that information.
So what happens in my situation where I have a salvage yard in a residential area and nothing's being done with it, and all of a sudden we're starting over?
So that should not have any effect. The non-conforming use section had very minute changes to it. And a salvage yard in a residential area is prohibited. So that would be an issue to take to Sean, to forward to the code enforcement officer or the zoning officer regarding that. Because it's also addressed in the Wyoming Storage Junkyard Act. So there's a number of provisions that address your concern.
Okay.
I think it's an enforcement issue.
Excuse me?
Can I be
Yes.
excused real quick? Thank you.
Well, we don't have any other place for some of them retail places to go, and like an automobile repair place, we're better than in the industrial edition, and some of that, it's, some retail wouldn't exist down there. It's just, it just wouldn't, but service type retail does. I mean, just think there was a Yamaha dealership, a Honda dealership, Pirelli Marine. Gosh, when I moved here, that was the shopping center, and I think that was a subject of discussion by the council several times. Even before I even owned that property in that area, there was discussion about it, but it's been going on for a long time. And it's actually been a good activity for the city, in my opinion. Councilman?
Yeah, and I agree 100% with that statement. I mean, considering the city just allowed a building to be built there, last year, right? That is a retail style business in that area too. I mean, it's kind of concerning that nothing was talked about at that point in time to possibly discourage, knowing that there was gonna be changes, to someone that puts in a, I don't know how much it costs, but I'm sure several $100,000 building, to have a retail type business in that area. And so, looking forward, I'd like to see some kind of packet or something put out there for building permits and everything else, also that shows the proper usage of their areas also would help individuals out.
Sean?
I like that comment. I'm excited that Lou is jumping into this role, and, we've been waiting for a long time to be able to have both the community development director and also the public works director. And this gives us more time where we can concentrate and do a better job at, focusing on these issues and getting way ahead of them, being more proactive. So I'm excited about that. And Lou has an awesome background in this and understanding of our codes and ordinances, so he'll do awesome. And Mayor, also I wanted to mention, you had a question before about the kind of the intent of what, why did all this come, why were we trying to change so much? I did try and reach out to Danielle Gross today, and I couldn't catch her. And then also I invited Tom Tomlinson, because I think he helped a lot with the crafting of this ordinance, and he wasn't able to make it tonight, but just wanted to know, I did try and reach out to try and get the more of that intent, but I can just, my best guess is that they were seeing certain issues with the ordinances and probably started working on it and just, you know, just kept going, trying to fix it all. But again, I'm sorry we didn't have one of them to kind of speak to that.
Well, and it's, you know, it's ancient history, really, I mean, it doesn't matter. You know, what matters is what we do from now forward, but, I'm sure once we start looking at these and does it fit, is it right, should we change it, then that's when we'll probably find out some of those exact reasons, but, the results, I know if I were sitting here, I wouldn't have voted to change that much use in the industrial area, because I know what's down there, and I know how it's been historically used and how necessary those uses are for our town. So, I think we're pretty much all in agreement, and I guess we'll just wait and see what that says, and, Councilman Weisberg?
Prior to that, was that a C1, C2 industrial combined? Is that what,
So the language identified, and there might be a missing word, but it says any use permitted outright. And if you, in there, what that would mean would be a permitted use. It doesn't require any additional approval, it's just permitted in that zone. And then it goes on to say, by special use permit. What I believe is there should be an or in there, so it should be, I believe the intent was, any use permitted outright, which would be permitted uses, or by special use permit in a C1 and C2 zone. So if it was a permitted use or a special use granted in a C1 or C2 zone, it would be permitted in an industrial zone. But the April 2020 changes removed that and replaced it with a schedule of uses, and that schedule of uses did not include many, commercial uses at all. I mean, there's a few, but very, very minor, and retail was not among those changes. So essentially, all retail located within that industrial zone currently is not a permitted use. Any use permitted outright or by special permit, use before what's permitted.
thank you.
Councilman Smith?
Amy, but it says any use permitted. When, to me, C1s and C2s or industrial are the areas that are the most, least restrictive, let's say. People live in some of their shops in the upstairs, there's other retail businesses there on and off, over the years. And so I've always taken the view that that should be the least restrictive uses, because it just, you know, it isn't residential, it isn't, downtown retail. So it's, I would like to see something pretty permissive, because we're dealing with things that are already existing, and that's, I would hate to have to tell everybody to sell out and move, you know, because I'm not gonna do that.
And, that was the proactive approach to bringing this to council before you reviewed that special temporary, or that temporary special use permit application. Because enforcement of one is enforcement of all, and so we wanted you aware that, well, we would be now in that, phase where we would be seeking, enforcement letters, or sending enforcement letters against a number of properties located in the industrial zone, and wanted that direction from you. If that was your intent, and you wanted the current changes on the books, we would move forward with that, with those violation letters. But if your intent was, this was an unintended consequence, and we would like to revert back, we wanted to give you the opportunity as the governing body to give us that direction, because it does have profound effects for existing commercial users in those industrial lots, as well as implications outside of the industrial. There were some issues with other zones, which we will revert back and then slowly, review and propose changes to you to provide the least disruption to those existing users moving forward.
I think the good news is we have not had a lot of special use permits or requests for them, and at least since 2020, of April 2020. So I think that's the good news in all of this, but to, the efforts that other people have had to put out isn't amusing to them, I'm sure.
No,
Prior to 2020, I'm not aware of how many we've ever had to issue in that particular area, so I don't think we've had to do very many. But we also changed the procedure too. We didn't see all the special use permits until now. So, there you go.
And, I echo your concerns regarding the existing users, and the need to balance reasonable zoning regulations against those current existing business owners to help them ensure that they are successful and continue to contribute to, this prosperity of the city of Rollins. You do need to, you know, while you're absolutely correct as far as the industrial zone being the most, permissive, you also have to be aware of those residential uses and incompatible uses, which is why there is not, it's not permitted to have a lodging home or a motel or a hotel in an industrial area. We have, every year, the city of Rollins staff deals with a number of complaints from the Highland Hills Airport, or Highland Hills Apartments regarding when they start up the asphalt and those plants down below, and that's a considerable distance. So I don't really envision staff recommending, residential use in the industrial, but, I would defer to staff on that particularly.
And that would cause several issues, but we're trying to steer away from that now. If we get calls that, you know, so-and-so's living in this commercial building, we'll do a follow-up on it. Because the last thing we wanna do is if we have a fire in one of them buildings and then find out there's family in that building, then nobody has any idea.
Well, and some of those buildings have things in them you don't wanna live beside. I mean, just that simple.
Yeah.
That's why it's. All right, is there anything else?
Just to recap, city staff will be presenting the, governing body with an emergency ordinance on Tuesday, July 20th, 2021. And that emergency ordinance will rescind all the changes to Title 19, reverting it back to the original. And then staff will then have the opportunity, when it's permissible, to begin rewriting and reviewing that chapter.
Well, I'm not happy this happened, but I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad we're attacking this. We need to fix it. And I'm glad we're gonna do it as fast as possible, considering it is a government.
And because it does have profound effects on existing, I didn't know if Mr. Heiser, wishes to offer public comment on behalf of his client, or if, he's just here to hear, the council's discussion.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. But the answer is I've listened, and that's all I really want to do. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anything else anybody wants to talk about? We don't need an executive session. Okay, I will adjourn this meeting.
Well, alrighty then.